Welcome to the 257 review, and in this video we'll be covering and breaking down the most recent chapter, and I think it just goes without saying that it was absolutely insane in all aspects of the word, and in my opinion, one of the best. This chapter is peak delayed gratification, as we have all been waiting for this moment to come for a couple of years now, and honestly, there's just a chance that Yuji and Sukuna could only be starting, although I can also see an ending here. I don't want to keep y'all waiting, so with that, go into a flashback of what seems to be Sukuna Ume on the rooftop right before his battle with Gojo. So this must take place in chapter 223. Ume is asking the golden question about Yuji, the one we've been asking since chapter 1. Who is Yuji Itadori? And I love that even the editor is telling Sukuna to answer this question, like even he's been waiting for this shit. Sukuna just gives us most of the rundown casually. You'd think that this would be some earth-shattering I am your father moment revealed by a resurrected Kenjaku, but nah. Sukuna just explains that Yuji Itadori is the creation of Kenjaku, but as for the body he inhabits, he has no clue. Ume then brings up Yuji's fight with Sukuna from when Sukuna left his body, saying that she was able to feel some similarity between the two, and even then, this power that she's felt isn't just from whatever Sukuna left in Yuji's body after splitting from him. It was something completely different. Something that makes Yuji more than just a prison. Sukuna says, well, of course, Kenjaku wouldn't make a child without reason. It's likely that Yuji is the result of him getting it on in Kaori's body with Jin Itadori, the man who is the reincarnation of Sukuna's other half, and the man who shares the same soul with Sukuna. Sukuna breaks this down, saying that when he was about to pass away from starving to death in the womb, he ate the other half of himself that was in the womb with him. I don't know if this is going to be relevant, but this tells us that either Sukuna's mother was in poverty and unable to afford food, or that she was starving her children to get rid of them. I'm unsure as to which, but I'd assume the former. Ume basically questions his other half existing, and he goes on to explain how he rejected the fate of being born a twin. And by consuming this other half's body, its soul was left to wander until it reached Kenjaku. Sukuna would then go on to point out that Yuji is naturally a player in the Culling game due to having a finger of Sukuna within his body, and that this was necessary to ensure his strength as a host. So this little detail goes all the way back to Kenjaku because it's insinuating that Kenjaku did make Yuji eat that finger or set things up in that way to happen one way or another. Why? Well, if Yuji's participation in the Culling game was to ensure Yuji's strength as a host such as Sukuna implies, it's probably because Kenjaku wants Yuji to become stronger himself. It's strange, but that's how I'm going to interpret it. This could also be why Kenjaku has set the deadlock rules of everybody needs to be eliminated, including Yuji, to manifest a merger, because it will put Yuji under conditions that forces him to grow even more, as we're about to see. Ume then puts the final piece together. If that's the case, doesn't this mean that Yuji's potential is equivalent to Lord Sukuna's himself? After this, the stage is set for the climax. Yuji and Sukuna prepare to enter close combat. Sukuna reaches toward Yuji's face, but Yuji pushes his right hand outward, parrying Sukuna, coupling that with his open left palm to push Sukuna's arm even further, and then he rolls his right fist after parrying into another black flash. Sukuna reaches in to act, and Yuji punches his hand, causing another black flash. The two look at each other for a bit. Yuji's locked in, and Sukuna's smirk isn't there anymore. After all this time, you really love to see it. Next thing we see is Yuji just flying out of a building. So that means Sukuna's probably on him bad, but he touches his pole and we see scissor marks surrounding it, and Sukuna's like, so he can actually use it? After Sukuna points out that Yuji has activated this technique, we get an explanation. Yuji at the moment has two cursed techniques. First is blood manipulation after consuming the death painting wounds, 4 to 9, and in this awakened state that he's in due to the black flashes that he's landing, this has given him access to Sukuna's shrine. Here, we see the pole finally clean cut by what seems to be Yuji's own version of cleave, and I'll explain this a bit later on. He grabs that same pole and hurls it towards Sukuna as a cover, with Sukuna cutting it into shreds with his foot, but Yuji here uses this opportunity to reach his hand through the debris and grab Sukuna's foot midair. He goes in for a punch as he holds on to Sukuna, and Sukuna responds by sending a barrage of dismantles, but to no avail. Yuji has decided to continue his punch through the rain of slashes and lands another black flash. Sukuna backs up and he begins to think about Yuji's own version of Shrine and how it's different due to the era and Yuji's mentality, but he was able to see that the energy input of this technique is quite weak, so the biggest problem is Yuji's keen sense currently. So yeah, Yuji does seem to have his own version of Sukuna's slashing abilities and is way more modernized as it seemed to be able to do rotational clean cuts. I think Yuji probably associates cutting with using scissors in school, whereas Sukuna associates cutting with knives and blades, as they probably weren't using scissors back in the Heian era. Sukuna says that the input to the technique is weak as well, so Yuji more than likely isn't using this technique as an offensive move, but more so utility. But this just lets him use way less curse energy than he would need if he had Sukuna's type of cleave. We move on to a flashback of Eno with Gojo and the rest before his fight with Sukuna. He's asking if he's able to use Nanami's curse tool, and they're like, go for it, why are you even asking? And Eno's thinking that they've known him for longer than anybody else, but they're just saying, we don't know him like that for real, bro, you good, just take the weapon. Anyway, you're the one that Nanami trusted the most. And as we get out of this lame ass flashback, we see Eno preparing something, the one hope he's ever had to be relevant, the dragon. As Sukuna hears this, it crashes him into a railing, but Sukuna is able to just instantly cut it up. Eno then charges up to swing Nanami's blade on Sukuna, but he just parries it by stepping on it and stares down at Eno, like, you don't belong here, gang. But Eno's well aware of this. He was only allowing our boy to use another Black Flash. Sukuna begins to complain and whine about Yuji just using it willy-nilly, and he asks if he's really going to keep up this combo on him. And as Sukuna flies through a window into a building, we see that Eno saying, damn, he's out of options at this point, and he apologizes for failing Nanami. We come back to Sukuna and Yuji, and Sukuna puts his hand on the ground and activates Cleave as Yuji drops down to follow up. Using the debris from Cleave as a smokescreen, Sukuna attempts to punch Yuji through it. But Yuji catches his big plastic man-ass arm and sends him flying into a wall with another punch, and Sukuna's just panicking at this point. You can see it on his face as he says that nothing is getting to Yuji. He then sends more dismantles at his face, but Yuji's on demon time. It doesn't even faze him. This allows him to land another Black Flash, but it was all for naught, as Sukuna finally gets his hands on Yuji's face and nope. Even a direct cleave to the head couldn't do the job. As long as there's only pain, Yuji Itadori will not stop. Black Flash. Sukuna begins to lose his composure and screams "you brat" at the top of his lungs. And then we see Nanami's blade smack Sukuna in the face. It throws him off balance one last time as we see Yuji preparing a Black Flash under him. And Eno on the side says, I did a great job considering the kind of person I am, huh? Mess him up, Yuji. And boom. Black Flash. As the chapter ends, there's obviously some things I want to talk about and some things I want to save for their own videos. First, the choreography of this chapter was some of the best, and this includes Eno's segments. The last pages especially are just perfect, with Sukuna screaming at the top of his lungs about his impending defeat, alongside Eno throwing that blade with his final quote. Little stuff like that really matters. This is the kind of stuff that makes me think that the battle might just be over, because you see this in like the final part of a season ending fight in any anime with the music playing in the background. Y'all know what I'm talking about. This also leaves a lot of guessing as to what's gonna happen here if Yuji happened to finish the battle. Like, how is Sukuna gonna act? Is he gonna run on Mahito timing? Is he gonna curse Yuji? Is he just gonna sit there and let Yuji finish him off? I wonder where this will go, because we've never really seen Sukuna lose composure like this, let alone being defeated or having his philosophy proven wrong. However, this is all just speculation in the event that this fight is over. When it comes to Yuji's dad being Sukuna's reincarnated twin and by proxy, like Yuji's soul uncle, I think that is pretty dope, and everybody who said that Sukuna wasn't conjoined twin deserves their flowers. There's no way you can reasonably expect anybody to predict that Jin of all people was the twin rather than Yuji, so I'm still gonna give them their props. This leaves a lot of questions for Wasuke though. Because why does Wasuke look exactly like Sukuna, even more so than his conjoined twin if this is the case? This even brings up more questions and puts things into perspective. Because what was Wasuke gonna tell Yuji before he passed away? What did he know when he told Jin to stay away from Kaori? Yuji's whole creation is just riddled with mysteries, and this chapter just complicates things a little bit more. I mean, even with the whole Kenjaku lining Yuji's entire life up to be a calling game participant to make him strong, just too much going on, because then we can go all the way back to Yuji being the Eye of the Storm alongside Sukuna, despite him also saying that his role was finished after getting him into the games. There could really be something beyond what's currently going on here, and I can't wait to see the direction that the story will go after this fight's completed. And to end this chapter review off, where the hell is Hakari Uraume? I'm starting to think that Sukuna and Uraume will get away, because at this point it really seems like these two, Hakari and Uraume, are just fighting to remove them from the battle and stall each other off screen while Sukuna fights everybody and has his confrontation, nothing else. Hakari versus Uraume should have been done before what's going on here with Yuji's awakening. So I really think that the story is just trying to keep them out of the fray and use them for whatever's coming next. With that being said, guys, if you enjoyed the review, thank you so much, guys. I always appreciate the support. Expect a couple of good videos coming out as we wait for the next chapter. And I'll catch you all in the next time.